This is George Square in Glasgow, Scotland. This is the Glasgow Cenotaph, which commemorates the soldiers who fought and died in World War II. In World War II, Britain fought against the Germans in a hugely important battle which could have resulted in Britain being conquered. Fortunately, Britain defeated the Germans, but they may have lost if it wasn't for two Scottish men. Robert Watson Watt was born on the 13th of April 1892 in Brecon, Scotland. After graduating from university, Watson Watt joined the Meteorological Office in London. His early work focused on studying atmospheric phenomena and using radio waves for weather detection. He was particularly interested in the potential of radio waves to detect thunderstorms. In 1924, Watson Watt moved to a radio research station where he continued his research on radio waves. In the early 1930s, there were rumours that Nazi Germany had developed a death ray that was capable of destroying towns, cities and people using radio waves. Watson Watt was approached by the British military to try to develop their own death ray. They quickly determined that it would not be possible to create such a device. However, Watson Watt and his assistant, Arnold Wilkins, proposed using radio waves to detect enemy aircrafts. This led to the development of radar. In 1935, they demonstrated the effectiveness of radar to a group of leading scientists and military experts known as the Tizard Committee. Following the successful demonstration, the British government recognised the potential for radar to be used in air defence. They granted the approval of funding for the construction of an operational radar network. In 1936, Watson Watt and his team worked on establishing a radar system called the Chain-Home Radar System. This was a series of radar stations which were strategically placed along the coast of Britain to detect incoming aircrafts at long ranges. But another Scottish man plays a key role in this story. Hugh Dowding was born on the 24th of April 1882 in Moffat, Scotland. He pursued a military career, and in 1913 he joined the Royal Flying Corps, where he learned to fly and quickly became a flight commander. Dowding served in World War I. He was a quiet, reserved man, but he was known to have arguments with his superiors when he felt that the pilots under his command needed time to recover. After the war, he continued his career in the Royal Air Force. He held various high-ranking positions and contributed to the development of air strategy and technology. In 1936, Dowding was appointed as the head of RAF Fighter Command. This was the same time that Robert Watson Watt was working on radar for its use in the British military. As head of RAF Fighter Command, Dowding oversaw the development of the Chain-Home Radar System with Watson Watt and his team. Dowding was one of the few people at the time who saw the potential in radar systems for defence. Soon, a devastating enemy would challenge Britain and threaten the very future of the nation. In 1939, World War II officially began when Germany invaded Poland. As a result of this, Britain and France declared war on Germany. By the end of 1940, Germany had successfully seized control of Poland, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France. With France defeated, Hitler turned his attention to Britain. The planned invasion of Britain, codenamed Operation Sea Lion, would require the Germans to defeat the British Royal Air Force. Britain's chances of success seemed bleak because they were significantly outnumbered by the Germans. Winston Churchill wanted to send British planes to France, but Hugh Dowding opposed this idea. Dowding argued that Fighter Command was already stretched thin and lacked sufficient resources to meet the demands of defending both Britain and France. He ultimately convinced Churchill to not send planes to France and instead prioritise the defence of Britain. With limited aircrafts, Hugh Dowding knew that Britain would have to use cunning strategy if they were to defeat the Germans. He strongly believed that they would need to use Robert Watson Watt's radar to detect incoming enemy aircrafts. This would allow the RAF to deploy only the required number of British planes to win each fight. Using Robert Watson Watt's Chain-Home Radar System, Dowding developed a network of communication known as the Dowding System. It fed data from the radar stations to the Headquarters Fighter Command at Bentley Priory. This information was then filtered and passed on to relevant groups so that the appropriate defensive strategies could be implemented. It would allow for coordinated and timely responses to enemy attacks, so that only the required planes would be deployed for each air battle, and additional planes could be conserved. He also insisted that pilots should be given adequate rest to maintain the effectiveness of the RAF during prolonged engagements. Dowding advocated for the use of radar to the higher-ranking members of the British military. He campaigned with the help of his ally, Keith Park, who was an Air Vice Marshal, for his plans to be implemented. But Dowding's cunning plans were not appreciated by other military personnel. The use of radar and the Dowding system was a new technology which many of the British military leaders were sceptical about. They were not confident that it should be relied upon in such an important battle. The cost of radar was another reason for the senior military staff to reject it. During the build-up to the war, there was limited funding. Many sectors needed financial support, including aircrafts, pilots, and other military equipment. Dowding also faced opposition from another member of the Air Force, a man named Air Vice Marshal Trafford Leigh-Mallory. Trafford Leigh-Mallory strongly believed that Dowding's radar system would be ineffective. Leigh-Mallory wanted to use a more aggressive strategy, where the Royal Air Force would form large groups of fighter planes to attack the Germans when they arrived. He called this strategy the Big Wing Tactic. Dowding knew that the Big Wing Tactic would not work because it would take too long to prepare the large formations of planes whenever the Germans approached. The British were also outnumbered by the Germans, so it was uncertain if Britain could win the air battles using only aggression. Dowding knew that the radar would provide a strategic advantage and allow the British to use only the required number of aircrafts for each fight. Leigh-Mallory garnered support from influential figures at the Air Ministry, including Sholto Douglas, who was known for his social skills and ability to navigate military politics effectively. Together, they sought to undermine Dowding and Park's leadership. Those who knew Dowding were often impressed by his humility and the gentleness with which he carried himself. Despite holding a high-ranking and authoritative position, he was deeply concerned about the welfare of his pilots and introduced bulletproof windscreens and other safety measures. He also believed in the importance of giving his men enough time to rest and recuperate. He had strong beliefs in spiritualism. This was significantly influenced by personal loss. He believed that he could see and talk to the spirits of his deceased fighter pilots. This belief was partly driven by the guilt and sorrow he felt over the loss of so many young men during World War I. Dowding's belief in spiritualism gave those who doubted his military tactics more reason to ridicule him. Trafford Leigh-Mallory and others used Dowding's spiritual beliefs to undermine his credibility. They suggested that his spiritual practices showed him to be mentally unwell and questioned his ability to lead. In the face of this opposition, Hugh Dowding and Keith Park continued to advocate for their radar strategy to be implemented with the Dowding system. They succeeded in getting approval and going ahead with the plan. Leigh-Mallory and Douglas Sholto had other plans, however. Despite holding a lower rank, they disobeyed the orders of Dowding. Instead, they commanded their men to use the Big Wing Tactic several times. This caused problems. As expected, the formations of fighter planes took too long to be sent out. They were not able to respond quickly enough to meet the incoming German aircrafts. This also negatively impacted Dowding and Park's strategy, as it left their pilots without the necessary support. The Dowding radar system was very effective in detecting incoming German bombers and relaying the information to the British intelligence. The Royal Air Force was able to deploy the appropriate fighter planes at the right time to counter the incoming attacks. They won crucial air battles and were able to conserve their limited number of aircrafts. Pilots and military personnel often spoke about the confidence they felt, knowing that radar provided an extra layer of security. Hitler commanded his bombers to target London and other British cities. This caused significant loss of civilian life, but it allowed the Royal Air Force groups time to recuperate and maintain air superiority. With the help of radar, they continued to destroy incoming German bombers, which were vulnerable to the British fighter planes. The Germans could not build new aircrafts fast enough to replace their losses. Ultimately, the British were successful in defeating the Germans in the Battle of Britain. The leadership of Dowding and Parke was crucial in Britain's victory against the Germans. However, Dowding and Parke were removed from their positions. This was the result of the mounting pressures that were caused by the cruel meddling of Lee, Mallory, and Douglas. Robert Watson Watt was knighted in 1942 for his radar development. Sadly, Hugh Dowding and Keith Parke were not recognised for their crucial roles in saving Britain from the Germans during their lifetimes. Long after his death, a statue was built for Hugh Dowding in London in 1988. A statue of Robert Watson Watt has also been built in his hometown of Brecon, Scotland. So there it is. Two Scotsmen, Robert Watson Watt and Hugh Dowding, saved Britain from the Germans in World War II. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more.
In the skies above the British land, two Scotsmen took a stand. Hugh Dowding and Watson Watt, their bravery never forgot. Hugh Dowding, Robert Watson Watt, Scottish heroes in the fight they brought. With radar beams and fighter planes, they faced the threat of Hitler's chains. From the highlands to the southern shore, the Scottish hearts forever swore to protect the isle from threats of war. Their legacies we all adore. Hugh Dowding, Robert Watson Watt, Scottish heroes in the fight they brought. With radar beams and fighter planes, they faced the threat of Hitler's chains. From the John O'Groats to the London town, they faced the foe and never backed down. With courage bold and vision clear, they held the line year after year. Hugh Dowding, Robert Watson Watt, Scottish heroes in the fight they brought. With radar beams and fighter planes, they faced the threat of Hitler's chains. From the John O'Groats to the London town, they faced the foe and never backed down. With courage bold and vision clear, they held the line year after year.